Hey everybody, I'm Captain Kyle and welcome to Toy Spotlight, where we talk about collectible toys and occasionally have cats joining us. Now today we're going to be talking about Transformers, and G1 fans have been thrilled for the past few years as amazing new versions of G1 characters have come out. However, sometimes it's difficult to get all the ones that come out in time. They're gone. You have to pay huge eBay prices. So we're actually going to take a look at a Combiner Wars Bruticus, but it's a knockoff. And not only are we going to talk about the knockoff, but we're going to throw in the Amazon Blastoff, which is better than the original Blastoff that came with the Combiner Wars set, and see how that works with the knockoff. Okay, so this is the knockoff version of Onslaught, and it looks a lot like the actual version of Onslaught. How do I know this? I have a real one right here. Side by side, they look pretty much the same. The coloration on the weapons is slightly different, but again, overall, even the packaging looks almost the same. The difference is, with the knockoff, it does have a slightly different design, but it says, "Cool, become brave," instead of Combiner Wars. Apparently his name is Cubian, and it's a also, a field army is on the back in place of Onslaught. So honestly, I'm not sure what this guy's knockoff name is, but I'm just going to call him Onslaught. And because I have an official Hasbro Onslaught, we're going to compare quality to quality exactly. I was a little concerned buying less expensive knockoff versions of Transformers. I took a chance, and now I'm going to show you the results of the chance I took. And I'm going to use a knife. So this is the knockoff out of the package, and you can see it got some graphics, illustrations, got instructions too. This is the official Onslaught, not as colorful in the back. Everything in the package pretty much looks exactly the same. Weight-wise, they feel the same. As you can see, Onslaught has a regular Decepticon symbol. Faux Onslaught has this almost a Decepticon symbol. Same purple background, but not actually the trademarked symbol. The only real difference I can see is the gun in faux Onslaught's hand is not as tight as the one in regular Onslaught's hand. There are some slight differences in some pieces being colored. Like this piece here is black on the faux, and it's more gray-green on the real Onslaught. Other than that, it's very difficult to tell them apart. The transformation into vehicle mode is identical. And again, if it wasn't for actual Decepticon symbols, then you wouldn't really be able to tell these guys apart. So far I'd say the quality is pretty much on par. So let's check out the rest of the Combaticons. We have Blastoff, who, unlike the actual real Transformer from G1, is a plane instead of a space shuttle, which kind of makes sense, but I'm a little traditional. I want the space shuttle, so that's why we'll be taking a look at the Prime space shuttle later. But again, nice packaging. But looking at this guy, he actually reminds me of Slingshot of the aerial bot, but just in one of those maybe Young Justice stealth suits. He feels quality enough, has a weapon, and the little piece that allows him to become an arm of Bruticus. And one thing that's very interesting about Bruticus as a combiner is how many times he was released in his original form. I mean, he was Gen 1 Bruticus, he was Battle Gaia in Japan, then he was Generation 2 Bruticus, then he was Voldigus during the Car Robots era, then he was Ruination, which was the US version of Car Robots, then he was several special recolor versions of Ruination. Did I miss any? I wonder if this new mold is going to go in a similar way and have lots of other iterations. I know they've already done a Generation 2 version of Bruticus, which they've also done for Aerial Bots and Stunticons. He becomes the Jet, it's fine. He feels just as quality as any current Hasbro toy. Here we have the faux Vortex. And one thing I do appreciate about what they've done with Combiner Wars, and Bruticus in particular, is they changed a lot of names with the other sets, but they didn't change any of the Combaticon names. Sure, they threw the Decepticon Vortex and Decepticon Blastoff in front, but otherwise, it's still Swindle, Brawl, Onslaught, Vortex, and Blastoff. So here we are with Vortex. He doesn't look exactly like the original Vortex, but again, a new version, new mold, and the head looks pretty dead on to the original cartoon. Makes a cool enough helicopter, and again, pretty much like the Hasbro version. Brawl in his packaging, and again, while they don't look exactly like the original G1 characters, I have to say these interpretations are excellent. They look very similar to what the G1 cartoon was, maybe a little more realistic. And of course, Brawl comes with his foot hand, his gun, which apparently also becomes his turret. Now I know some people like to put the accessory that becomes the foot, hand, whatever, on the piece to add an extra weapon. In general, I don't. Though in Brawl's case, it's pretty easy to just put it on his back so he's not missing anything. And it doesn't get knocked off the table by a cat. And there we go, he makes a very cool tank. If you want to make it a little more G1-ish, you can put this piece on top. And it's kind of like the Sonic cannon that he had coming over the top, but it's not really necessary. He looks fine with or without it. And finally, Swindle. Now what's interesting about the Combaticons in the cartoon is they were created, or maybe created isn't the word, they were rescued, kind of, or conscripted by Starscream when he finally went too far with Megatron, which is weird because of how many times he actually went too far with Megatron. But he formed his own army, Starscream's brigade. They were criminals on Cybertron that were so bad that the Decepticons decided to remove their personality chips, or sparks, I guess you could call them, and put them on ice. But once Starscream restored them and gave them this Bruticus configuration, Megatron was like, I can use these guys. Including Swindle, who once sold for scrap all of his companions, though apparently the brain component of Brawl wasn't worth anything, so it got thrown into a junkyard. Poor Brawl. In the comic books, there's no real origin of these guys. They just kind of showed up. Maybe when Ratbat showed up on Earth and took over, they were just there as part of his troops, but no, one day they weren't there, and then the next day they were shooting at Throttlebots. Now, the original Swindle was a Jeep, and now he's kind of like a Jeep, or more of a Humvee type. Looks a little more bulky than just a regular Jeep. A great homage to the original character. Now it's time for Bruticus. I am going to use the main body of Onslaught from the knockoff so you can see how that works, but I'm pretty sure I could use either one and it wouldn't make a difference. And there he is, Bruticus. I mean, this is the first time I put them together, so I don't have the original Combiner Wars versions of Bruticus, but I think I did a pretty good job for not bothering with the instructions. And I think this was somewhere around 35 or 40 bucks for the set of these. So considering that it can cost you 30 bucks for just one of these guys, I think it's definitely worth getting. However, this is Bruticus, but he is not the Bruticus quite from G1. He needs a space shuttle, because space shuttles are military. For whatever reason, the original Combaticons had a space shuttle, and it helped out. I mean, Astro Train was handy. So this is Blastoff, which is an Amazon.com exclusive, so I'll put a link to this in the description. I'm also going to put a link to the seller who I got those knockoffs from, because I think it's worth getting them if you don't have the originals, or if you do and you want to repaint it as Battle Gaia or Ruination, or you know what I mean. Out of the package, the Amazon exclusive Blastoff looks a lot more like the original Blastoff. Doesn't look like a recolor of Slingshot at all. Comes of course with the Foot Fist and a little Megatronus who can plug into the power thingy whatever's. Honestly, I don't have much use for these guys. I don't want to lose them, but really, I'm more interested in the original characters. So robot mode is good. Space shuttle mode seems decent. You can even hide the gun underneath the nose cone. And so for having an actual, more accurate G1 version of Blastoff, I'd say the Amazon one is worth it. So it has kind of these 3 windows up here, kind of reminds me of Brainiac a little bit. However, the most important part is replacing the jet version of Blastoff with the shuttle version of Blastoff on Bruticus. And I'm happy to report that just like a real Bruticus made by Hasbro, this one fits on there perfectly. So you can make Bruticus with the knockoff version and the Amazon version of Blastoff much more accurate for a lot cheaper than trying to hunt down the individual pieces, maybe finding this one loose, maybe finding this one incomplete, and you can have Bruticus. And I do have to say, one thing I love about the Combiner Wars line and the knockoffs is that all the pieces that I used to put aside are built in. His chest shield, his head, his groin piece, which was actually part of the chest shield, his fists and feet, they're kind of part of it, but again, I have to say, this is a great homage to the original Bruticus. I'm gonna take him now and devastate Devastator. So have you gotten any of the knockoff versions from China? What has your experience been? Please let me know down in the comments below. Let me know if there's any other special knockoffs you'd like me to review. They may already be on the list. In the meantime, we have some other videos over here from our sister channel, Fandom Spotlight, you might be interested in. Be sure to subscribe down there. Hit that notification bell so you know when we have new videos. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'll see you next time. Have fun and good hunting.